Week 3 is in the books, and we have a lot to cover. We had upsets. We had unbelievably lopsided scores. He is Tyler Mallon. I'm Brandon Johnson. This is the Football Kingdom podcast. Okay, so as we do every week, let's get into the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs hosted the Chicago Bears on Sunday afternoon, and this was a matchup going into it that I think everybody felt like the Chiefs would win, but we weren't sure by how much. There was a lot of question marks with the offense, and the Chiefs feeling like they have a tendency to play games close. I think nobody was going to be surprised if this was a 27-24 game, but we went into it, and the Chiefs, Tyler, pretty much did whatever they wanted against the Chicago Bears on Sunday.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. Everything about that game was so much fun being a Chiefs fan. We talked about it off air, but seeing the Chiefs put away a bad team in a big way, just drop a 40 burger on them and, say see you later, because we think the Chiefs with Mahomes should be putting away bad teams like this every time. We kind of looked back at that, and it's happened a few times. There's probably a couple other games out there that shouldn't have been as close, but it's really good to see this team come together after the first two games and finally find some form that is repeatable, I think, and just look comfortable again. Everybody's on the field, everyone's generally healthy, and I think Mahomes passed to like 10 or 11 receivers, and the running game was on fire. It was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it was as close to, a perfect football game that the
Right.
Chiefs could have played. They came out and they looked like, I say Chiefs of old, but they look like the Chiefs that we've all come to know and love offensively. And we found out that Chiefs have a bona fide defense. I mean, they're a top 5 scoring defense right now, and I know it was the Bears, but they are playing at an incredibly high level, and this is really the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career that he's had a defense that can kind of play to his level. So in games where maybe the offense isn't going like in a week 1 and week 2, you can rely on the defense to pick you up. So I'm very excited to see the Chiefs continue to build some momentum from an offensive standpoint and continue to do what they do on the defense. And it has the makings of being a very scary football team as the season continues.
Yeah, that should really, put a lot of people on, they need to be aware of the fact that the Chiefs with Mahomes are having a top 5 defense is pretty scary. Because typically when, in the past, Mahomes years, when the offense has lacked, the defense steps up, but then they end up losing those games. I think now everybody is kind of in veteran status where that's not going to happen as much. Like, that's going to be the norm where, if it's a cohesion or if somebody kind of, falls behind, they're still going to come through and win games. But yeah, talking about the defense, your boy Trent McDuffie had a strip fumble. Like, he's looking awesome.
Yeah, all around. Patrick Mahomes, he played the first half and maybe a little bit of the third quarter. 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then pretty much let Blaine Gabbert handle the rest.
With his 2 interceptions.
His 2 interceptions. Yeah, one of them was bad. One of them was a good throw that got tipped or that deflected, actually.
Yeah,
But
he
it
didn't
didn't
look
matter.
terrible.
My
Sucks
but
not having Henny anymore, but
sure. But yeah, Isaiah Pacheco, actually all the running backs
yeah.
during the game were just fantastic. So if they can get their running game to blossom as well, then again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but look out. Also, the Chiefs' offensive line has only allowed 1 sack all season, so
Wow.
it's it's going well. Travis Kelsey was fully healthy this week. Seven catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown. And yeah,
Well,
good.
well, yeah. Seeing Jerick McKinnon in the end zone just feels right. You know, like seeing him back in the end zone, I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, let's keep the streak going back again this year. That would be great because that was a surprise. I remember when they grabbed him, I'm like, wow, Jerick McKinnon, like that guy's amazing. And, he had his injuries, and I'm like, if he can stay healthy, this guy is dangerous. I said that last year when we didn't have a podcast, but I'm super, excited that he is playing, at a top level, and they don't really need him until they get into that red zone or to pick up blocks. Like I think Pacheco had a blitz pickup.
He did pick one
Was
up,
that in
yeah.
the second day? I love
Yeah.
when that happens. Like that's one of the greatest plays in football. Whatever happens with the rest of the play, it's like seeing a dude light a guy up who's like about to kill your quarterback.
Yep. And
That's a great play.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes had a kind of vintage Mahomes moment. He kind of steps up in the pocket and just slings the ball out to
Oh my
Justin
god.
Watson at one point in the game. And I watched it and I'm like, it's not fair. he, he put it looked like he put no effort, just kind of was like, here you
Oh
go.
no.
And it was just right in the breadbasket.
I didn't notice that live. I was shocked at just the pass and the catch. I was like, that just happened. Like, let alone like no matter what Mahomes looked like throwing it, like where he put it and where the dude caught it was like you can't defend that. Like it was a perfect pass, and then you see the actual throw. Like I don't even think his feet were on the ground. He's like in midair, like kind
Yeah.
of hopping.
Yeah.
He
It
just
was
throws the dime.
it was great. Another story for the Chiefs that kind of has come out. I think the Chiefs are frustrated with the way that Jawan Taylor is being officiated. They're starting to feel like maybe it's not being called consistently across the league with Taylor, being called for
Mhm.
false starts and illegal formations. And you saw Jawan Taylor start the second half on the bench. And to my understanding, I think the Chiefs were doing an experiment where they had the second string. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. Line
Oh,
up the same way that Jawan Taylor did, and
yeah.
he was not getting called for illegal formations or false starts. And you see it across the league where right tackles are doing the exact same thing that Jawan Taylor's doing. Lane Johnson is for the Eagles is a great example. He does pretty much the same thing and doesn't get called for it. So I'm hoping that we start to see some consistency. A touchdown, a pretty much walk-in touchdown from Mahomes to MVS got called back for
Mm.
one of these, and
Yeah, he could have had like 4 touchdowns in the first quarter or something like that.
yeah. So I'm hoping that it gets addressed, but at the same time, you know, I think Jawan Taylor should probably make some adjustments himself as well. I know he's, most of the time doing what he's supposed to do, but you know that you have a huge target on your back from the officiating, whether it's fair or not. And while they're emphasizing what you were doing, I think you should, lay low and make sure that you're not negatively impacting the team with getting flags on you, whether they're justifiable or not.
That is very true. But yeah, I think the Chiefs are also kind of putting it out there to the refs or to the NFL officiating, like, guys, you gotta reel this back because it's not just us, and it's not being called consistently. But Andy Reid did say, like, when he took him, he was not benched this game. He had like a cut on the inside of his mouth or something,
Yeah.
and they put in the guy that, yeah, I still can't. He's got a weird name too. They shifted some guys around, and again, it was also because of the blowout. But yeah, I think yeah, they're trying to more like like, hey, we'll work on it, but they need to make awareness here. But yeah. Yeah, there was, I don't remember when it was. There was like this perfect little counterplay to Pacheco for like 20 yards. I think it was like in the first half. Did you see that? You know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I watched the game, so I
So
watched it.
it was like one of the, I hope they do this a lot because it was a counter. So he hands it to Pacheco, he cuts right, cuts left, and he was gone. Like everybody bit on the play going right, and then he's just up the left. And I'm like, I don't think the Chiefs have ever ran that. It's such a simple counter. It's literally like Madden football, like you just run a simple counter and it just, I don't know, maybe the defense was just that bad, but I was like, we need to see more of this. Like this will open up the running game even more so rather than the jet sweeps and everything that they, are very successful with. But it's those types of plays where, you can open up your run game even more. But yeah, other random things like I don't know if it was that play, the Mahomes like crazy throw, but like Greg Olsen called Justin Watson Willie Mays. Did you hear him say that?
Yeah, where he switched over his
Yeah.
shoulder and he called him Willie
Was it
Mays
that
or something.
play?
It was not that play. It was a different
Okay.
play, I believe. But
I don't know. I love that. I was like,
I actually really enjoyed Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen on that
yeah,
broadcast. So
they were good. They were good on the Super Bowl.
yeah,
Um,
I was like,
yeah,
how can we get them to call more Chiefs games? So it's kind of what I was thinking.
yeah, they're, you know, it's kind of hard not to always talk Chiefs that entire game, but I think they're actually pretty neutral. Yeah, going back to you're talking about the defense. Like Nick Bolton didn't even play in this game. Drew Tranquil had the mic. And he had a fantastic game. So if those two are your Mike linebackers, then it's even more trouble for everybody else. The defense is going to be stacked.
Yeah, you didn't. I mean, obviously you want Nick Bolton on the field, but you didn't even miss him Sunday, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah,
that's how deep your defense is. But and flipping to the Bears, my takeaway for the Chicago Bears is this is the worst team in the NFL. I mean, from the front office to the coaching staff to the players, it's just an absolute mess. They have a quarterback that I'll believe it when I see it. They have an offensive line that stinks. They have DJ Moore is their one receiver. They have a defense that can't do anything. And my takeaway was this is going to be a very long season for the Chicago Bears again. And I think Matt Eberflus's job is probably put on watch at this point. And possibly even the general manager, Ryan Poles, because he has nobody that he has brought in has developed into anything. And
right.
I think Ryan Pace was actually responsible for Justin Fields, but again, it's Justin Fields is not developed. In my opinion, he's not that he was great last season, but he's going backwards. And you can't have that. He was 11 for 22, 99 yards, a touchdown and a pick. And that touchdown was in garbage time. So congratulations for that. But
yeah.
I just was like, wow, they're really bad.
No, you're right. Every game this season, I mean, people are calling for jobs, and it's week 3. And people were talking about how many MVP votes is Justin Fields going to get in the offseason. And now they're 0-3, and they look worse than last year, perhaps. So that's It's really bad timing for them to open the season and not show growth. They've got the weird defensive coordinator issue, which is still kind of up in the air. We don't really know what's going on there. But
Yeah,
there possibly was something that happened at the facility.
there's
Uh,
reports of inappropriate
right.
conduct was what
Whatever
was
that
said.
means.
There's no
Who knows?
details outside of that,
Right.
other than there's no, what did they say on the broadcast? No criminality to it, which I
Okay.
didn't know was a word.
Interesting. I didn't hear them say that. Interesting.
And but yeah, their defensive coordinator resigned last week, and you also had the comments from Justin Fields that kind of probably got blown out of proportion, where he said that it was a problem with coaching.
Yeah, I think it was more his response. Like if you heard his response, he was just like, "Oh, well, you guys have to twist my words, and that's your job." And it's like, bro. Now he's 24 or whatever, so he has some learning still to do. So I'm not just gonna call him out and be like, "Come on, you know better." But you got to take responsibility as well. Like for him to call out the coaching and be like, "Oh, well, you twisted my words and this and that." It's like whether or not they did, come out and say your piece. But I think again, I'll kind of give him the pass.
Oh, sure. And like you said,
mean?
it's a learning thing. And Zach Wilson did almost the exact same thing last year. He came out, the Jets just couldn't do anything offensively, and he was basically like, oh, it wasn't my fault. Like he was
Right.
like Elvis Gerbach or whoever that Chiefs quarterback was that was like, I can't catch the ball or I can't pass the ball and catch it. Like but yeah, so it's just when you're the quarterback, you give the credit away when you do well, and you take the blame when you don't do well, whether it's your fault or not. That is the position of the quarterback. You are the leader on the field. You play the most position in all of professional sports. So there are things that come along with doing that you have to make sure that you're doing correctly.
Right. Well, this will forever be known as the Taylor Swift game. Like literally forever. I don't think that'll ever not be what we remember this game for. I mean, we'll always be like, yeah, they, blew out the Bears and they're looking great. But
Taylor
the Taylor Swift of it all.
Taylor Swift went to Arrowhead, and there was a Chiefs game. That's what happened.
Also,
that's what happened.
The Chiefs blew up the Bears. Yeah, there was some ridiculous TV ratings, and that went through the roof because all the Swifties started watching football for the first time. And of course, the NFL is gonna love that. Like that's what it's all about. Like getting new fans any way you can, even though they're the superpower that they are.
Yeah. Along with the Taylor Swift news with Travis Kelce, there was a tweet from The Athletic today that Travis Kelce, his jersey sales rose 400% this week.
Right.
That is incredible. That is all Taylor Swift fans buying Travis Kelce jerseys. That is wild.
If his number was 89, that would be like perfect.
Yeah, that'd be great. But
yeah, with all that, with the Taylor Swift of it all, you had Mahomes reaching 25,000 yards, the fastest with 89 games. My bad, I didn't.
83 games.
83 games. 89 was the other record, I think.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford, I think, was the other one that had the record, and it took him 90 games.
There you go.
So, pretty cool, because you're just going to continue to see that from Patrick Mahomes, breaking records significantly earlier than, the player that he took the record from. So, but all in all, a great game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs play the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. And for the third time, it will not be Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers. Instead, it will be Patrick Mahomes versus Zach Wilson. And Tyler, I know you have a lot to say about the Jets.
I have a lot to say about their quarterback situation. Yeah, so this game was happening at the same time as Packers Saints, and I kind of had a side eye on it, but I mean, it was one of those, weather games. It was rainy, and honestly, a snooze fest. You know, I watched a lot more Packers than this game, but like I said last week, which everyone is saying, now, well, I'm not the only one, but you know, I said it last week. You cannot run out Zach Wilson. He clearly is not it. Everybody's already calling for him to get the heck out of there. I don't know what their options are now that the Vikings are 0-3. Maybe Kirk Cousins will go over there.
I don't know either. It's clear. It's clear to me, and I think most of the league, that Zach Wilson is not an NFL quarterback.
No.
If you listened to Tony Romo was just critiquing and nitpicking every little thing that Zach Wilson did during that broadcast. Why didn't you check down here? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? What are you doing?
I mean, he sacked himself. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That was one of the worst plays I've ever seen. The dude did a 360 because he's out there seeing ghosts, like another ex Jets quarterback. I mean, the dude spun himself to the ground.
Nice pull. I did. Dan Orlovsky was on. He was on Pat McAfee yesterday, and he said something that is probably makes a ton of sense, but still doesn't really, make it better. But his take is that Zach Wilson is just too afraid to make a mistake, so he's just not doing anything well, and that makes a ton of sense. The Jets obviously didn't want him. That's why they brought in Aaron Rodgers. But we talked about it last week. Obviously, you don't anticipate an injury to your quarterback, but if you don't believe in Zach Wilson, you shouldn't have kept him on the team.
I think it's the general manager who drafted him, which is the only reason why he's still there. They can't take the L and get rid of him. And at this point,
it's not that they can't take the L and get rid of him. It's that they can't take the L twice. They already had to give up on Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's pretty bad too.
If you're going to give up on two, were they both first round picks?
Yeah, they were.
First round picks, but number one picks.
Overall,
I don't know if they were one overall, but they were both first round picks for the Jets within like a 3-year period of each other. So if you fail on high picks back to back, that's kind of what the Bears are in. They're in that situation. They missed on Trubisky. Well, they missed on a lot.
Right.
Picking Trubisky, but we don't need to get into that. I think that's pretty well documented who the Bears should have drafted there. But same thing. You have Trubisky, didn't work out. Justin Fields kind of looking like it might not work out. And, spending high draft picks on busts. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But yeah, the Jets have a quarterback issue, and again, a team that was in Super Bowl talks with Aaron Rodgers under center is now a team that, maybe they'll win 5 games. I don't know.
Yeah, this game coming up on Sunday against the Chiefs, that's in New York. After this total drubbing of the Bears, what is this game going to look like? What are those fans going to be sounding like?
Yeah,
and I feel like maybe they'll finally get something done with the QB change after that game, hopefully.
I feel like the NFL is like trying to figure out a way to flex this game out of prime time.
Sunday night game?
But the Chiefs draw an audience, so
sure
they won't. But sticking with the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins they just destroyed the Denver Broncos. Tyler, they dropped 70 on the Denver Broncos. And for me, a lot of people were like, oh, this was Mike McDaniel making it personal against the Denver Broncos because they didn't give him an interview in 2022. But for me, this was the Miami Dolphins putting the NFL as a whole on notice. Hey, you keep talking about the Chiefs. You keep talking about the Bills, the Bengals. We're here too. we were good last year. We, had unforeseen circumstances with Tua going down, but we
Exactly.
were great, and we're going to pick up where we left off from that point this season. And we want to be a team that is going to be in Super Bowl contention. And through 3 games, they're 3-0, and they're, in my opinion, the scariest team in the league. It's just working all around for the Chiefs. I mean, for the Dolphins.
Also the Chiefs. Well, yeah, dude, we've been saying it, since we started the pod here. Like, if Tua is healthy, this is who they are. I didn't think they'd be dropping 70. It is the Broncos, but man, this is.
But you don't see
You've been
that in the
saying it
NFL.
more.
That's a college score.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, he only threw 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And they had 70. I don't know how much garbage time, in a win, you're scoring your own garbage time points. How much of that 70 was that? But yeah. I mean, I guess we go on to the Broncos here. I mean, geez, you got Sean Payton talking, crap on Hackett, and he just goes, loses by what, 60, 50 points?
Oh, the Broncos. The Broncos are a mess. And Sean Payton is overrated.
I agree.
And he got paid a lot of money to so far come in and stink. Now, with that being said, their defense is obviously terrible, but they are scoring points. So, if there's anything positive to take away from Denver being 0-3, they're scoring a little bit, but they hung tough with the Raiders in week 1, but turns out the Raiders are also really bad. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on them, on coaches that are gonna get fired in the next 6 weeks.
Right.
But
yeah, by the way, Dolphins had 726 yards.
Yeah. No,
insane.
This was the equivalent of Alabama playing like Middle Tennessee or somebody. I don't know. So, just oof. 70 points in an NFL game is just unheard of. I remember checking the score and it being 56 to whatever, and I was like, oh, surely they'll just shut it down and then put 14 more up. Like, all right. You might as well. It's the NFL. You can't run up the score in the NFL. It's the NFL. It's the best league in the world. You can't stop them. They're not, like, that's on you. But Philadelphia played the Buccaneers, and Philly's been, similar to the Chiefs, have kind of gotten off to a slow start. They arguably could have been 0-2 going into this game, had a couple things gone differently in those previous games, but they started to look like the Philadelphia team that we all thought was going to be the Philadelphia team this season. And I think they're really about to hit their stride. They made easy work of the Buccaneers last night, and they play the Commanders next week, who aren't very good. And then they play a Rams team that I genuinely still have no idea what to make of them.
Yeah. What's scary about the Eagles right now is this is probably like their C game. And even last night, it's I don't think they were really in their stride yet, for most of that game, and they're still winning by 2 scores. Like that's, that's pretty scary, which is a sign of a really good team. Much kind of like the Bengals. The Bengals still have question marks, I think, because the Rams, I don't really think played a super strong game, but
they didn't. And you could tell Joe Burrow was not Joe Burrow yesterday. So there's a lot of checkdowns, a lot of dink and dunk, a lot of just, not typical Joe Burrow. Even in the pocket, he looked weird.
Yeah, his mobility is pretty shot right now, which makes sense. But it's also like, somewhere in the third or fourth quarter, they just are like, "Oh, we're the Bengals again," and are just
Yeah.
chucking the ball, and I'm like, "Where
Yeah.
did this team?" Like they've been
Yeah.
sleepwalking for 3.5 weeks, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, like the Bengals are they're scary again," out of nowhere. Like I'm like, yeah, that's who they've always been, you know.
So moving on from Philly, Bengals, Bucks, all that, to another really good NFL team, or NFC team rather, the 49ers. 49ers played the Giants, and 49ers are just, I mean, I don't know. This week they have passed the Chiefs for as Super Bowl favorites, and you know, Brock Purdy again looked good. I know that Brock Purdy is not the sole reason why this team wins football games, but seems that when he is on the field, they win. That's all they do is win football games. But obviously, this offense all around is incredible. Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel doing work, the defense chopping people up, 49ers, and they're in a division that really has just a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I mean they took care of business. Another great sign for a team that's clearly top of their game, putting away a really bad Giants team. I mean, the Giants had 89 yards in the first half. I thought they looked okay, all things considered, against the Niners defense, and then the Niners run game was just dominant, and not a whole lot you can do there. Their whole team, I mean, you said it. It's like they do everything great. They're just top of their game right now. Like everything is going right. So
With lopsided scores, uh, teams starting to look like themselves. We also had three upsets around the league. Dallas, who I thought through the first 2 weeks of the season looked like one of the best teams in the NFL, and then they play the Arizona Cardinals, who are supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league, and they just look bad the whole game. In Arizona, credit to Arizona, this is 2 weeks in a row where they had the Giants up. They were up on the Giants 20-0 at the halftime. They ended up losing that game, but they beat Dallas, and they're playing tough football. They're playing hard, and they're playing
yeah,
like they want to win. Like Arizona's actually through the last first 3 weeks of the season has been kind of fun to pay attention to. I mean, with all that being said, I don't think that they're going to win more than 4 games, but this is a typical Dallas Cowboys game where they can look like the best team on the planet one week, and then the
hmm
next week it looks like they've never played football in their life. And that is the problem with the Cowboys. You don't know who you're going to get. You don't know what Dak Prescott you're going to get. You don't like I don't know. This is why people feel the way they do about the Dallas Cowboys, because they do things like this.
you're absolutely right. Because that's how I felt. I'm like, man, these guys are going to be finally. They're going to be in the zone, and there's no more excuses. And then you see the Dolphins and the Chiefs put away bad teams, and the Niners. And what do the Cowboys do? They go do this, where everybody was like, "This is a win," and and it's 28-16.
Yeah, 28-16. And another one, Houston Texans over Jacksonville. Houston won by 20. And another team got a rookie quarterback that, you don't have high expectations for Houston. And Jacksonville, on the other hand, uh, they think that they are a Super Bowl contender. And this is now 2 weeks in a row where you're just kind of throwing your hands up like, what's wrong with this football team? They again look like a team that has 9 wins written all over them.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud played a pretty solid game, but the Jags had 4 turnovers. And one of them was a blocked field goal, and they had a fullback run back a kickoff, 85-yard kickoff return.
The third uh, upset of the night or of the week, Colts over the Ravens. Ravens Came into this game 2-0 against a Colts team that, again, just like the Houston Texans, don't really have a whole lot of expectations, but the Ravens kind of have a lot to prove. They play in a tough division, and they're chasing the Bengals. They have a lead on the Bengals, and apparently the Browns as well. Apparently the Browns have like the best defense in the league, but
Apparently.
yeah, Ravens lost to the Colts. And these are in all three of these teams, Dallas, Jacksonville, and Ravens. I think they're all three playoff teams. I do. And these are the games where you are just you go, they lost to who? And the Chiefs aren't immune to that. They did it
They
to
lost to the Colts
the Colts
year.
last season. They did it to I guess the Titans were the 1 seed the year that they laid an egg against them, but the Titans were the worst 1 seed in the history of the game that year, but that's for a different time. But anyway, yeah, you have those games where you go, all right, gotta just put that one behind us. And, as Bill Belichick would say, we're on to Cincinnati. But Packers Saints, one of the early games on Sunday. Tyler, you were fired up about this game whenever we were building the rundown of the show. So I'm gonna hand it over to you and let you
All right.
fly.
Well, it was the game before the Chiefs game, and I wanted to, watch Jordan Love, so I was really interested to see. And you got some Derek Carr action as well, so I thought it was a perfect game to lead into the Chiefs. But yeah, this was an interesting one because, I mean, the way the game went, this is almost like another upset. I think these two teams, with Carr coming in for the first year, they're a little unproven. But Jordan Love, his first year starting, still kind of an upset, in my eyes. The Saints are a little more, little older, a little more, veterans on their team. But it was what was the score? It was 17-0 in the fourth with 11 minutes left, and the Packers beat the Saints. Absolutely insane. Because honestly, Jordan Love, he's solid. The dude can play. He's gonna be another problem for the Packers. Like, this is not fair, quite honestly, for the Packers to get yet another good player. I mean, we talk about Justin Fields. This guy looks great.
No pun intended, I love Jordan Love. I'm
There you
really
go.
happy that he's
fun to watch, man.
living up to it. He's doing as a young quarterback, he's doing what, Zach Wilson can't do, what Justin Fields can't do, and that's go win a football game for your team when you're down. And you said, yet another good quarterback for the Packers. I'm not quite ready to say that yet. He's, to put him in the Favre Rodgers category, but
Well,
I see what you're saying.
yeah. He could be very special. He already looks. He's very comfortable and calm and making very smart decisions. Okay, he only had like 74 yards in the first half, but took some killer sacks, took him out of field goal range, threw an interception. He's throwing into coverage, but he did what he needed to get back in this game. I mean, make some really good throws, made some really good decisions to run to get the first down, which so many quarterbacks still don't do or can't do, whatever it may be. But, literally 17-0 in the fourth quarter with 11 minutes left, and they came back and scored 18. And then the Saints almost came back to win it, and they missed the field goal. It was a hell of a game. It's a fun one to watch to come back. But, quick on the Saints, Carr looked pretty good. I don't think his injury is super serious. But
calling it week to week.
Right. Their running game is dominant, and they're getting Kamara back next week. I mean, the Saints with Derek Carr and that running game that I saw, I'm like, this game could have been 30-0 if that running game can take over. But they're still trying to make Taysom Hill a thing. It's like, please cut me a break with this guy. He comes out, and I'm like, you're paying Derek Carr. He's your starter. Why the heck is Taysom Hill still? You see Derek Carr run to the sidelines. I'm like, it's 2023. Why is Taysom Hill still taking direct snaps as a QB tight end, whatever the heck he is? I don't know.
Yep.
And then you pointed out like Jimmy Graham scored a touchdown. And
I was watching. I was out to eat, and I was watching the game, and they had the sound on in the restaurant, and they were like Jimmy Graham, and I legitimately thought that the announcer misspoke. I was like, Jimmy Graham hasn't been in the league for a decade, and I looked it up. I'm like, that's that same Jimmy Graham. All right, good for him.
He did a little Lambeau leap too. He scored a touchdown, and
yeah.
Old friend alert too. Tyrann Mathieu made a big play too. I was like, okay. I forgot he was on the Saints, but yeah, he's still making plays for them. But yeah, fun game.
My final game I want to talk about of the week is Chargers Vikings. Both of these teams came into the season or into the week 0-2. And Tyler, if you asked me to describe a Chargers Vikings game, this is exactly what I would tell you. I would say, well, the Chargers, went for it when they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And the Vikings threw an interception at the end of the game. Like, it's just like, oh, I didn't watch that game, but this probably happened. And you would have been right here. So I really just kind of want to talk about the last 3 minutes of this football game, because this is where all of the nonsense happened. So Chargers are up 28-24. Vikings have the ball. It's 4th and goal on the 1. They go for it, as they should have, because, you again, you're down 28-24. You could kick a field goal. You make it. Congratulations. You're still losing. So, and then you're going to give the ball back to the Chargers. Or you don't. You make it. You don't convert, as they did. And you pin the Chargers inside of their own end zone and give your defense a chance to make a stop. And that is exactly what happened. The Chargers it was 4th and 1 on the Chargers' own 24. And instead of just punting the ball away, they decided to go for it. Again, in their own territory. And the Vikings made a stop. And now, all of a sudden, the Vikings have a chance to win the football game with a minute plus to go. And, they get inside the 10-yard line. They drive and let like 30 seconds fall off the clock. And everybody that's sane is like, just clock the ball. And
the announcers were calling for it.
Yeah. Instead, they rush up to the line, and Kirk Cousins forces a throw, and it ends up being an interception, and the Chargers win. It's something that was just, that is why, and I don't know 100% if this is Kirk Cousins' fault or if it's coaching, but for me, Kirk Cousins has to know, clock the ball, huddle up, and draw up the greatest play the NFL has ever seen that will score you a touchdown right there.
Right.
And they didn't do it. I didn't understand it. And that's why, to me, that's why people say what they do about Kirk Cousins. It's why people don't think he's good, because he does things like this often. Where you're like, come on, Kirk. And it's tough because the Chargers, tried to charger, making reckless decisions that I will never understand. But Vikings gave it away at the end of the day. And as a Chiefs fan, it's frustrating.
Yeah, now they're 0-3. Which everyone keeps saying statistically is pretty next to impossible to make the playoffs, even with the extra game. But Yeah, that's a rough way to start your season, especially with so many chances to win. Chargers are really good, but we keep going back to how long is Staley going to be there? They're making decisions like this. I think this is 2 weeks in a row where they've had the game on the line and they've tried to run it and failed.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Like, give it to your best players. Throw the ball.
Yeah, with the game on the line, your best player being Justin Herbert needs to have the football. Or, you know, if you want to try, you can just have Keenan Allen chuck a 50-yard bomb to Mike Williams. But whatever you think is best there. But
Not anymore. He's out for the season.
he is out for the season with an ACL tear. But I don't know. In this situation, just punt the football and make the Vikings drive down and win the game.
Right.
What are you doing? Ugh. But that's week 3. Pretty interesting week as a whole. Looking ahead to week 4, and it's already week 4. The NFL season, once it starts, it flies. Week 4, Lions Packers on Thursday night. Packers and Lions are both 2-1, both pretty exciting football teams. One of those two teams is obviously going to come out of the North, and it's the first time I get to see them go head to head. Along with Packers Lions, another division battle, Bills and Dolphins. This is Sunday at noon.
Yeah,
Kind of
it's
wish
got to be
this
game of
was,
the week.
yeah. And
This is what they should flex into Sunday.
yeah, Dolphins Bills, obviously huge game already early in the season. Bills are 3-0. I mean, Dolphins are 3-0 rather. Bills are 2-1. And this could be a statement game for the Dolphins. They could go 2 games up on the Bills and give themselves a little bit of cushion and really put the league on notice, as I said earlier. And I'm very excited to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills put away the Commanders 37-3 this week, so both these teams kind of at the height of their game. I think they're in a good stride. I mean, more so with the Bills. They were looking kind of iffy there, but I think the Bills are in perfect form and meeting the Dolphins, who clearly this will be game of the week for sure.
And to close it out, as we said earlier, the Chiefs go on the road on Sunday Night Football and play the New York Jets in what should hopefully be a pretty comfortable victory for the Chiefs. This is the Football Kingdom podcast. We'll see you next week.